your audio on mute during the presentation, but at any time, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute. Or you could also take advantage of the chat box, and I can answer questions at the end of today's presentation. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott Green, and I am a curriculum specialist with McGraw-Hill. Today, we'll be taking a 1-hour look at the English program StudySync provided by McGraw-Hill. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask your question, or if you prefer, you can save your question for the chat box, and I'll be addressing all questions at the end of the session. Checking to see, we had a chat of somebody not being able to hear me. I am not on mute. So I'm not sure what the issue may be, ma'am, as far as not being able to hear me. I see that I am not on mute. This session will be recorded, and any participant who would like to have access to the recording, we will be sending that out to you as well. So, first, of course, what is StudySync? Well, StudySync is our English program that is flexible because it has both print and digital components. StudySync consists of student work text, which are going to have selections that are identical to the selections in every core ELA unit. Teachers also have access to a print teacher's edition, which comes in 2 different volumes. Volume 1 will cover units 1, 2, and 3. Volume 2 will cover units 4, 5, and 6. And of course, the digital access. That digital access is for both student and teacher. The digital access includes, of course, accessing material both online as well as offline. McGraw-Hill StudySync provides an app that allows a student to download any work that the teacher has sent digitally. The student can participate in that work offline without connectivity. And then once an internet connection is established, all of the work the student has done is automatically sent to the teacher for grading. So the digital access will be in both online and offline. For today's presentation, we are going to make sure that you are able to participate by going into the demo login. For that, you want to go to the McGraw-Hill platform, which is called my.mheducation.com, and you'd want to use the username and password provided. Now, I'm going to give you a second. If you'd like, you can take a picture of this with your phone, or you can simply jot it down. This is the demo site that McGraw-Hill uses for all of its trainings. It is designed for teachers to really explore and see what's there, create assignments, look at the assessments, look at the reporting of those assessments, and really get a good feel of what StudySync has to offer. Again, this is a demo site, so there will be fake classes with fake students and fake assignments so that you can really see how this looks to both teacher and student. Again, the platform is my.mheducation.com, and the username and password is provided. Now with that, I am going to go into StudySync. Here you can see on my StudySync homepage, it is welcoming me back. And from my homepage, we are going to be able to navigate throughout all of StudySync. Now, first, if a teacher were to simply scroll down, you'll see anything that has recently been viewed by the teacher, and you can access these by clicking on them, and you can scroll through them by clicking on the arrow that you see here. We'll also show you what is the latest blast. Now, blasts are specialty assignments. They are going to be tied to current events, or what we like to call hot topics that will be of high interest to your students. Blasts are added every day of the school year. So when the school year begins, you're going to see a brand new blast added every day, Monday through Friday. We house all of our blasts in the library, which I will show you in just a moment. Scrolling down even further, you're going to see what we call what's new, anything that has been recently added to our system, any ideas, any suggestions that we can give teachers to help make StudySync a success in the class. And then at the very bottom, we have what's called Getting Started. Now, here you're going to see some PDFs, seen here on the left, a walkthrough of the program, click paths, and in the very bottom left corner where it says mobile apps, these are the directions for students to follow if they would like to download the StudySync app and work offline, as I mentioned earlier. Now, this is all on the teacher's homepage. You can scroll back to the very top, and in the top right corner, where I have the 3 horizontal lines, if you click on that, it will also give you access to what's called the Help Center. And this is an incredibly helpful place for teachers to go to get all kinds of support. This is the first place we're going to go right now. If you are following along, just click in the top right corner, and the drop-down menu will give you the Help Center access. Now, when I click, and start scrolling down, one of the first things I see here is that there is a training available. This is a 3-hour course that the teachers can participate in completely at your leisure. It will walk you through all aspects of StudySync in great detail, as well as give you time to explore and step-by-step instructions on how to go through that exploration. At the end of the 3-hour course, teachers can also print up a certificate of completion that you have gone through the Getting Started training. And let me just say that, so today we'll be spending an hour doing a quick overview of the program. This 3-hour course will really be helpful to the teacher who wants to do a deeper dive into StudySync. Underneath training, we have what are called resources. And these resources are going to be a mix of both PDF step-by-step instructions, as well as seen right here where it says tutorial videos. These are for the teachers who learn through visuals. We walk the teacher through a step-by-step directions of various features in StudySync. It's a great way for the teacher to see how to navigate from one point to another. And then underneath it, we have what are called the StudySync teaching labs. This is going to provide teachers with a model that they can witness and see how to implement StudySync in their classroom. This is good for both middle school and high school teachers, and it takes the aspects that you learn in the training and gives you the best practices as to what strategies can be used with StudySync. I strongly encourage teachers, one of the very first places they go should be the Help Center, and participate in our training there at the top or any of the resources that we provide. Finally, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you're also going to see our Q&A. These are frequently asked questions about various aspects of the program, our assessments, how to assign digitally, how do I reach out to my English language learners. These are, again, frequently asked questions with the answers provided. And then at the very bottom where it says still need help, you can click where it says attend a webinar. And McGraw-Hill StudySync provides multiple webinars every week on issues and concerns that teachers have expressed to us during the current week or the week prior. So these webinars, as you can imagine, are going to be specific to aspects of the program. They also are 1 hour in length. You can also click on send us a message if you at any time have any questions or just need any help with McGraw-Hill StudySync. Now we're going to exit out of the Help Center, taking us back to our homepage. And at the very top, you have 6 different hyperlinks that can help you navigate through our program. Starting in the top left corner where it says StudySync, at any time you can click on StudySync and it will take you back to this homepage. We then have a Users tab, which will provide you with all of the classes and students within those classes that you teach. The next tab is Assignments, and this will be where you can access any of the assignments that you have provided to students digitally. The Library tab is going to give you access to, I believe, 5 libraries that hold all of the resources used in StudySync. We have our Assess tab, which provides all of the assessments online. And then finally, the Core ELA is where we provide specific units for each grade level. And these units will include both the reading routine as well as assignments that we've labeled independent read. Now, first, we're going to click on the Users tab. And as I mentioned, this is where your classes will be accessed. Currently, I have a class titled SS Training Class, as well as a class simply labeled StudySync. Going across the ribbon, you can see the number of students that are in these classes. I can access any of the assignments through my gradebook here, but at the very end of the row where it says Actions, you'll see that spoke icon. If you click on the spoke, you can actually click where it says Group Membership, and you will see all of the students that are in this class. Now from here, while we're in the tab Users, and we're in our classes, specifically looking at the students within those classes, you have the ability to assign a proficiency level to your student, as well as assign a support language to your student. So, for instance, here we have a student named Ethan Green, and I have set his proficiency level at approaching. This means that Ethan is a struggling student in my class. He is reading not quite at level, and I feel he would benefit from differentiated instruction at point of use during every selection. Now, by clicking on the arrow, I can see that approaching is in bold. That's what I've assigned the student. I could also assign 4 different levels of English language learning to the student. My beginning English language learner, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. Now, all 4 of these are geared towards the student who is learning English as a second language. But what teachers have found is that while these differentiated instructions are certainly developed for the English language learner, they can also be of benefit to any student who is struggling. Finally, at the very bottom, you'll see where there is also an above level proficiency called Beyond. Now, this is very specific. By assigning the Beyond proficiency level to a student and updating any assignments that you have already given to that student, you are going to allow the student to read a blast at the highest reading level we have developed. It's going to be an advanced or a beyond reading level for the blast. Now that's different from our English language learner, the 4 levels we have, and approaching. These are going to provide differentiated instruction for the selections within the unit. So to be very clear, you have 4 different proficiencies and 1 below level proficiency that you can assign a student, giving that student differentiated instruction for all of the selections within a unit. The above level proficiency, called Beyond, is specific to a blast assignment. It will give the student the highest reading level developed for that blast. Now, next to the proficiency column, you also have support language. And if you click on the drop-down menu, you'll see that you have 6 languages that you can provide to the student, which will give that student a summary of the selection in that specific language. Cantonese, Haitian Creole, Spanish, Vietnamese. These 6 languages will be joined by 2 additional languages at the beginning of the school year. And by clicking on it, what you will do is when the student is provided with a selection from the core ELA, right above the selection will be a summary of that selection in this support language. Now that is a very quick look at the Users tab. We next go to our Assignments tab. And here I can see any assignments that have been given to my students. You can look at the last 30 days, the last 90 days. You can even look at the entire academic year. And here you can see the name of the assignment, such as Black Beauty, how many students have completed the assignment, how many have I reviewed. It was created by me and it was sent to the entire class. And here too, at the end of the row, your Actions button will let you preview the assignment, edit the assignment, or even grade the assignment by clicking on the assignment report. Every assignment that you provide to the student digitally will be seen right here under the Assignments tab. And you can easily, by clicking on Options, view only the assignments that have been given to my students, or perhaps see any assignment that you have deleted. Next to the Assignments tab, you have your Library tab. And here, underneath Library, a new ribbon appears, labeled Standards, Prompts, Units, Skills, Blasts, and Text. As the name suggests, you can click on any of these to access a brand new library. So right now, under Standards, I can put in a short code for, in this case, a Tennessee standard, and it will pull up any selection that is correlated to that standard. Next to Standards, we have Prompts. And with the prompts, these are writing prompts that are found within the core ELA units, as well as additional prompts that have been provided throughout some of the other selections in the library. And with all libraries, you can click in the top right corner where it says Filter, and you can filter by a specific grade. So if I wanted to go to grade 9, I would now see that there are 165 different extended writing project prompts to choose from. Next to Prompts is a tab Units, and this is going to include both novel units as well as any thematic units that have been created by StudySync. Once again, I can click on the filter and I can see that there are over 100 different novel studies available, but I also have units based on African American literature, modern literature. I could choose from units that have a duration of 1 week or 2 weeks or even 6 weeks. And again, I can look at units that are available by grade. Next to our Units tab is the Skills tab. And when I click, I can now see I have over 3,400 different grammar skills and language skills that I can use with my students. And like most selections within StudySync, these can be assigned digitally, but also printed if you prefer to use them in a traditional classroom setting. Now, by clicking on the filter, I can go to a specific grade, say grade 9. There are 497 language and grammar skill lessons available. If I wanted to tailor this even more, I could click here on grammar and now reduce the number to 166. Scrolling down, I can access any of these grammar lessons. You can see the first 3 have to do with nouns, both proper and common, concrete and abstract, plural and possessive, but it includes all 166 skill lessons that I can use at my discretion. So imagine you are teaching a selection in class and you see right away that your students are struggling with verbs in the perfect tense. If you'd like, you can click on the skill lesson, see all of the different aspects of that lesson, the definition, the vocabulary, the models, the questioning, and you can assign this digitally to students if you'd like. If you'd prefer, under the actions, you can also add it to any of the units that have already been created. Now, next to skills, we have our blasts library. As I mentioned, we have a new blast added every day of the school year. Here, you can click on the arrow to see the most recent blasts. You can scroll down to see what have been the most popular blasts. And as you can imagine, the coronavirus, managing anxiety, managing stress, those have been topics that have been quite popular with students and teachers through this recent current events that we are experiencing. Like all libraries, you can click on the filter and you can see what we have, say, in the way of science and technology, or sports, or entertainment. Now, when you scroll through, you can click to open, and the organization of a blast is very specific. In the overview, you are provided with the prompt that students will be given. This is the guiding question for the students in their reading, as well as in writing a response. There's a quick poll question that allows your students to share their ideas and opinions. And as the teacher, you have access to the data in real time. A number crunch is available, which provides a factoid to the students. And you also, by clicking here on research links, have the ability to allow your students to go beyond the blast, to dig deeper into the topic. Know that by providing research links to your students, you are directing the students to leave StudySync and go to an outside resource. When the student clicks, they will get a window such as this that will inform them that they are about to leave StudySync and visit another website. We point this out to you because as a teacher, while we have vetted these sites and we find them to be safe and academically useful for your students, The ultimate decision to assign research links comes from you, the teacher. Now, background is the actual article that the students will read. This article is going to be nonfiction. It's going to be relatively short, and it comes in 3 different lexiles: on level, which is here in the center, below level, and also beyond level. Remember, under users. If you assigned a proficiency level to a student that was labeled beyond, your students will automatically get a blast in the highest lexile possible. So these are the components that make up the blast. How does it look to the eyes of a student? I'm going to click here in the top right corner where it says actions and choose preview blast. This is what it would look like to a student. First, the student is presented with the guiding question. In this case, how realistic are teen TV shows? The student can scroll down, and to the right, that is the background information, the nonfiction, the informational text that the students can read. Remember, this comes in 3 different lexiles. The student has here on the left the quick poll question that they can choose and share with students in the class. And in the top left, you have what's called Create Your Blast, where the student is presented again with the guiding question. And here the student has the ability to answer that guiding question. Catch, of course, is that the student only has 140 characters to share their ideas with classmates. We've basically taken a tweet, a student's social media, and applied it into the English classroom. Now, any blast the student creates, if the teacher allows, can be shared anonymously with students within that class. It is anonymous peer review. If the teacher allows it, the students can review other students' blasts and they can comment and rate that blast. Finally, next to blasts, we have our text library. Here in the text library, we currently have over 1,800 titles available. And this is an ever-growing library. We add 10 new titles every month and 10 Spanish titles every month. And you can scroll down to see the recent library additions, or in the top right corner, click on the filter, and you can see what we have, say, in the way of autobiographies or short stories. You can even see what full text we have available in our library that can be used by you, the teacher, but also accessed by the student. When the student logs in, the student will have access to this exact same text library. You can even, by scrolling down a little, filter by lexile. By clicking on the bar, you can adjust the lexiles as you see fit and allow your students to really fine-tune their selections to meet their needs. When you scroll down, you have access to all of the different selections, where again, all you need to do is click on the icon to open. Here for A Christmas Carol, we have the entire text in its entirety as a PDF document or as an EPUB document. You can always see the segments of a selection on the far left. There is an introduction. There is the vocabulary. There's the actual reading of the selection, quiz questions, special features, think questions, and so on. All of this you as a teacher can assign to your student or print out various aspects of the lesson and participate with your students in a more traditional classroom. We're going to leave the library tab now and go to assess. These are all of your online assessments. Here too, you may want to filter by grade. So I can click here on filter and I can go to grade 9. And by scrolling down, I can see that I have benchmark tests that I can use with my students, end of unit assessments, as well as a readiness screener, reading comprehension diagnostic, and state test preps. To enter any of these, simply click. You'll have a short description. You'll have any details that are pertinent to that assessment, and then you can access the questions by clicking on questions, and it will show you all of the different questions found in that assessment. To see this through the eyes of a student, you can click on the actions and preview assessment. If you want to make any changes to an assessment, you would first click clone the assessment. And you can see here the drop-down menu indicates that if you want to customize the questions or content of this assessment, first choose Clone Assessment to create a copy and begin editing. Finally, that brings us to the Core ELA tab. When you click on it, the ribbon underneath will give you access to all grades that StudySync provides. That's grade 6 through grade 12, as well as 2 additional courses, one AM, referring to our American Literature course, and another BR, referring to our British Literature course. The American and British Literature courses are going to follow the literature chronologically, as well as provide some of the traditional canon that is used in American and British literature. These selections are not organized by theme, and they are not organized by novel. Here you can see I'm in grade 9, and by scrolling down, my first column is labeled thematic unit. Here I can see my thematic unit 1, Divided We Fall, thematic unit 2, the Call to Adventure, thematic unit 3, Declaring Your Genius. These thematic units are what we provide in print in the student work text. All of the selections within a thematic unit are duplicated in print in the student work text. Next to every thematic unit, in the row going across, we also provide the novel study units that can be used to substitute a thematic unit. So here we have the novel American Born, Of Mice and Men, and Angela's Ashes. The idea is that at the high school levels, teachers may want to, instead of teach a thematic unit, to teach the skills from that thematic unit as it applies to a novel. And that is why at the high school level, grades 9, 10, 11, and 12, for every thematic unit, you will also have 3 novel studies that can be used to substitute that thematic unit. All the while, you are still covering the standards. To enter any unit, you can click on the title. So here for thematic unit 1, I'm going to click on the tab Divided We Fall. And again, to the far left, you're going to have all of the segments that make up this unit. There's the unit overview. Integrated reading and writing is going to provide you with all of the selections in that thematic unit, as well as your lesson plans. You have the extended writing project and grammar. Every unit has its own formal writing project. There are specific ELL resources. The novel studies that you saw in the row next to a thematic unit can also be accessed at this tab, Novel Study. And then, of course, the end of unit assessment you saw under the Assess tab can also be accessed here. Now, video is a very important part of the StudySync experience. You're going to see videos tied to our unit overviews, videos tied to the introduction of selections, and you're going to see a lot of videos of students modeling for your students what academic collaboration should look like, or basic definitions of skills and access to the understanding of those skills. I'm going to click on our unit overview, Divided We Fall, to give you an idea of what the videos look like.
Why does it often hurt to feel excluded from the group? What's wrong with being an outsider? The Florida Everglades, a full moon, swamp roses with yellow flies and mosquitoes. On all fours, girls met bad cattails as they scampered from the swamp. What happens when your family stands between you and the outside world? So close and blackness, frequent birds with bald faces. Quality touch brings her love. But when the love she tries to fit takes her with it, she still.
So I'm going to stop there so that you basically can see the unit overview is a teaser for your students to kind of see what the selections are going to entail within that unit. Scrolling down on my unit overview, I can see that I have access to my pacing guide, my essential question, and then even further down, I'm going to see the different texts that are found within this unit. By clicking the drop-down menu, I can see the different reading skills that will be covered. And something that has been of great importance to teachers, if you scroll down even further, we also have a tab labeled Shortcuts. In a perfect world, you would have time to cover everything within a unit, but we realize that that is not always possible. So in this tab, Shortcuts, we direct teachers as to what selections we suggest could be cut, but still make sure that you are covering all of the skills. And we're going to scroll back up to the top, and under the tab Unit Overview, we now have the Integrated Reading and Writing. And it's labeled your instructional path. This is going to be the exact same table of contents that the student would see in their print student edition. We have selections like The Necklace, Metamorphosis. We have Angela's Ashes, Future in My Arms. We have all of the selections that a student would see in print here online. You may have noticed that some of the selections have a little blue box around them. That blue box indicates, with the paperclip icon, that these are paired readings. The assignments for these are paired together. So for the student to complete the assignment, they would need to also read all of the selections within the box. This is going to give your students access to skills of comparing and contrasting, as well as a number of other different strategies when reading multiple selections. Now at the very top, you see where it says Sync Start. Unit 1 of every grade level will have as its first selection a selection titled Sync Start. And this, we open by clicking on the arrow, is going to introduce your students to the very first blast that they will experience. It will introduce the student to skills such as annotation, context clues, reading comprehension. It is a walkthrough of StudySync for your students. Again, Sync starts are at the very first unit of every grade level. Scrolling down, we're going to open up the necklace because this is an example of our reading routine. The reading routine consists of a first read, which is your student's first introduction to the selection. Then the student would be introduced to one or more skills that are tied to the reading of that selection. And then it ends with a close read. And this close read is going to allow the students to do a second reading of the selection, only now they are going to do it with a specific purpose. They're going to analyze the piece and they're going to utilize the skill they learned earlier to that close read. Now, to open any of these selections, you simply click on Preview to see this through the eyes of a student. Here in my assignment preview, I start off with an introduction video. Remember that the videos are going to be tied to the unit overview as well as to every introduction of a selection. The idea of the video introductions for the selections will help the students to establish any background knowledge. You as a teacher can click on your teacher's edition and you have your lesson plan for the introduction, which is where we are now. You have your optional pieces such as developing background knowledge, developing cultural awareness, and then, of course, any vocabulary before getting into phase 2, reading and annotating. So here, clicking on number 2, I begin with some introduction from the teacher and then the actual reading of the selection. In the selection, anything in bold is a content vocabulary, and we do not provide the definitions here in the first read. There are definitions provided in the close read. The idea is in the first read, we want the students to really see how the word can be defined through context clues. There's an audio read of the selection. By clicking here on audio, the audio comes in 2 different speeds as well as a highlighting. Highlight and slow down. Students can annotate directly onto the page by clicking on the word annotation. Now, the student has access to 6 different colors for their highlighting, as well as those same 6 colors for taking notes. As a teacher, you will have access to everything that the student annotates. Now, remember in the Users tab, teacher had the ability to assign a proficiency level and a support language to a student. Here in the top left, I can click on my proficiency and I can see what that differentiated instruction looks like for my beginning ELL student, intermediate ELL student, and so on. So if I have a student at the beginning ELL level, I can see by clicking on beginning and scrolling down to the selection, there is now a scaffold tab seen here on the left. And for the student who may be learning English as a second language, They may benefit from visual vocabulary, seen here, or a text synopsis, or any number of differentiations that are available to help the students be successful in the reading of this selection. It is true differentiation. Now, that's at the beginning level. If I were to change this to approaching, my scaffold will change as well. Now, instead of visual vocabulary, there are speaking frames that are tied to the understanding of this selection. And that scaffold will change as the student moves from phase 2, the read, to phase 3, the quiz questions, to phase 4, the think questions. As with most everything in McGraw-Hill StudySync, these scaffolds can be printed. By clicking here in the top right corner where it says Actions, you can print any of the scaffolds that are available. Next to Proficiency, you have your Language tab. And if I have a student whose native language is Spanish, I can assign this in my Users tab. And now the student has a summary of the piece in that language. That summary also comes with audio. Now, in the first read, the student has their introduction video, the reading selection, quiz questions, which are questions of a pretty simple depth of knowledge. They're reading comprehension questions. Usually they are multiple choice. And then the think questions are going to be questions of a higher depth of knowledge, maybe 2 and 3. And this is going to give the student a response box to write in. Anytime a student writes in a response box, the teacher does have the ability of allowing anonymous peer review. Now, as the student is writing, they may click on the split screen. So here, as I answer question 1, I can peruse through my selection. And this is really going to encourage the students to cite textual evidence in their answers. In the reading routine, that is the first read. Next comes the skills development, and then it concludes with the close read. And here I'll click on the preview of the close read, where in the close read, the student now has a vocabulary activity to do with the vocabulary they were introduced to in the first read. All of this is sent directly to the teacher for review and grade. There is the read segment, but now there is a skills focus question or questions that the students are going to answer as they read that second. So here in my skills focus, question number 4, identify textual evidence that reveals a plot twist in the ending and analyze its impact on the story's ultimate message. This question just happens to be tied to the Tennessee Standards RL.KID1, KID2, and KID3. Many of the selections have a special feature called StudySync TV. And StudySync TV is a video of students who are talking about the literature that your students are reading in the class. In this case, The Necklace. Your students will be able to watch as a group of students are going to talk about the literature, disagree with one another, cite textual evidence, and prepare to embark on a writing assignment. It will help your students improve their listening and speaking skills. And now the students in this video will continue to talk about the literature, They will sometimes disagree with one another, and they'll cite textual evidence for the answers that they give. It is a great way for your students to see what academic collaboration is supposed to look like. And then finally, the writing segment. And here the students have a more extended writing prompt, in this case, a literary analysis. They can click on the graphic organizer to help with the organization of that writing. And like with all writing, this has the ability to have anonymous peer review. If the teacher assigns this, the teacher can decide if he or she wants the students to participate in anonymous peer review. Now I'm going to exit, and next to the preview button is the assign button. And this is where a teacher would click to assign this out to one student, a group of students, or an entire class. And it's in that assign option that the teacher can alter a lesson, customize it, and assign anonymous peer review if desired. Finally, your lesson plans can be seen both in the student preview, but also right here where it says lesson plan. Here you have a PDF of the lesson plan that will also include suggested groupings for the activities, but then a very detailed lesson plan on every aspect of the lesson. Number 1, vocabulary. Number 2, read. Number 3, StudySync TV. And then number 4, write. And you'll notice the 2-column approach where the instruction is given on the left, and on the right is any scaffolding or differentiation to meet the needs of your English language learners, your approaching level students, beyond level students, even your pre-AP students. Now, remember the novel study is tied to the thematic unit. If a teacher decides to, instead of teaching the thematic unit Divided We Fall, and instead teach the novel of Mice and Men, we provide to you a reading guide for both student and teacher. This will have specific vocabulary to the novel, as well as close reading questions and opportunities for the students to create their own Sync TV group work, and comparative text. By clicking on comparative text, I now have comparative reading and writing. And the idea is that here, after the students read chapter 1 of Mice and Men, we are then going to have the students read the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King. And here, the I Have a Dream speech is going to follow in the reading routine of a first read, multiple skills, and then a close read. And then it ends with a comparative writing of both the novel the student is reading in your class and of this specific selection. Now, it's important for you to see how this can be utilized in the class. I'm going to play for you a teaching lab video so that you can see how one teacher utilizes a first read in her class. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's overview of McGraw-Hill StudySync. Our wrap-up and post-work is basically a reminder to all participants that our Help Center is going to provide a number of different support material for you as you explore StudySync. We have the 3-hour training course. We have the teaching lab videos, such as what you just saw a moment ago, as well as a number of different step-by-step videos and PDF walkthroughs. You can also visit StudySync.com to see any updates to the program or any helpful hints and tips that can make your experience through StudySync enjoyable. Thank you very much for your attendance today, and we wish you the very best as you embark with McGraw-Hill StudySync. If there are any questions at this time, please unmute or ask in the chat box. I was asked to put the username and password back up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is the username and password for the demo site. Again, it's my.mheducation.com and the username and password provided. I see in the chat box a number of you all had difficulty hearing, and for that I do apologize. There were, luckily there were some of you in the chat box who did say that you were hearing fine. Unfortunately, I don't know why some of you are having difficulty and others weren't. I will tell you that this entire webinar has been recorded and we can send the recording out to you. So hopefully if you were able to get it as a recording, the audio will be better. And that would also include any of the audio for the videos as well. You all have a great day. And again, we hope you have a pleasant experience through McGraw-Hill StudySync.